Have you ever played a video game, listened to a piece of music, or watched a movie that had such a deep and profound effect on you? I'm sure we've all been there before, but today I wanted to talk about a single fan game that helped me cope with my personal demons. Super Mario 64 is a game that most children my age grew up playing for hours on end. Exploring every nook and cranny in that game was an unparalleled experience that doesn't come around too often. Fast forward about 2 decades, and that game has garnered dozens of core memories that still sit with me to this day. And the first time I booted up a seemingly innocuous Super Mario 64 ROM hack a couple years ago, I instantly knew I was about to experience something I hadn't experienced since I was a little kid. A feeling of true mystery. A sense of wonder. A feeling I never thought I'd ever feel again as a grown, cynical adult. Hello everyone, my name is Chris, or as all of you know me by now, Blue Knot. Today, I wanted to discuss the profound effects a single fan game had on me during the lowest point in my life. Today, I'll be discussing how B3313 helped me cope with depression. Let me first off explain what B3313 exactly is. B3313 is a fan-made ROM hack of Super Mario 64, created by Chris R. Lillo and his team of talented modders. The mod aims to recreate the vibes and layouts of early beta versions of Mario 64. It mixes one-to-one recreations of some beta levels, while also pumping in a metric ton of original ideas that fit the themes of the betas. The main selling point, so to speak, of this ROM hack is its sheer size. With over 400 stars to collect, an enormous castle that seemingly goes on forever, and over 300 unique areas to explore in total, this isn't a game you're meant to beat. This is a game you're meant to experience, and let the feeling of wanderlust wash over you. No amount of explanation and metaphors will ever do this game justice, so I highly recommend playing this for yourself if you haven't already. Throughout my life, I always had the feeling that I was different than everybody else. I had trouble making friends, I hardly ever participated in social activities, and this made me feel like I was an outcast. That I was just weird. I've always seemed to have fixations on certain topics, people, or forms of media that captivated my mind. Say, for example, the music I listen to. I've never been able to listen to a plethora of bands or musicians at a time like most people. I become completely entranced by one particular band for years at a time, and will listen to virtually nothing else but them for as long as that fixation lasts. This odd way of thinking and behavior led to my teen years being filled with a lot of loneliness and a feeling of being a reject, which slowly manifested into depression as I became an adult. In fact, this depression would spiral out of control in my early 20s. I'd almost completely given up on personal hygiene, all my hobbies became dull and uninteresting, I slept all the time, and I drank. Every night. I would drink until I felt like my limbs weren't even attached to my body anymore. Drinking would initially make me feel as happy and carefree as possible, feelings of total relaxation and inner peace. However, as the night would draw closer to an end, I would flip a switch out of nowhere, and all of a sudden I was bawling my eyes out, hoping when I went to sleep that night, I would never wake up again. I set a time frame of when I wanted to take my life. July 2023. My mind was doing everything it could to self-destruct itself, and it looked like it was about to win the battle. Like most people in my generation, my other form of escapism was through video games. Most of the time, it was filled with sort of junk food video games. Call of Duty was the big one. I had been playing that franchise since I was 12 years old, and while COD games never had any profound impacts on me, it was always a way for me to escape. One day, as I was looking for something to watch on YouTube, just like any other day, I stumbled upon a video on an alleged spooky and haunted game. A Mario fan game that invoked primal fears in its players. Now, I don't remember what video it was that led me down this rabbit hole exactly, but after I watched this video, I knew I needed to experience this game for myself. It seemed to have this unmatched feeling of isolation and loneliness that I'd never seen in a video game before. So I downloaded the patch, grabbed the Super Mario 64 cartridge that I totally own, combined those two entities together, and launched B3313 for the first time. Well, it's Super Mario 64 alright, but also not. Upon starting a new save file, we're thrown right in front of Peach's castle, just like the original game. But something just isn't right. We go around to the back of the castle, and there's a completely new playable area that wasn't in the original game. This is the sort of feeling that the game is going for. Familiarity in the unfamiliarity. Everywhere you go, every level you visit, there's a sense of, hey, I've been here before, while also feeling as if you're experiencing something for the first time. As I started deep diving into what the game had to offer a couple years ago, I had a feeling brewing inside of me that I hadn't felt since I was a little kid. That sense of wonder and adventure, the great unknown, all these feelings were creeping back in, and I truly felt like that innocent child that I once was. Happy, carefree, just enjoying what I was experiencing in the moment. Gone for the moment were those feelings of despair, self-loathing, and utter sadness. This game, this single Mario fan game that was probably made for goofs and memes, was having an effect on me that I would cherish for the rest of my life. This game executes 3 categories of game design that lead to this having such an impactful experience, and I want to delve into each category a bit and explain how and why they impacted me so much. The first category, and I've already kind of talked about this, is the level design. This game takes already existing Super Mario 64 level designs and ideas and changes them just enough to make every level feel new and exciting, as well as oddly familiar. Take, for example, this aquarium course. Remember in the original Mario 64, that hidden aquarium stage where you had to collect 8 red coins to get a power star? Well, this level uses the same premise. Collect 8 red coins in an aquarium, and get a power star. But this aquarium is different. You start out in an aquarium with a similar layout, but explore this aquarium for just a few seconds, and you'll notice there's a new path to take. A path that leads you out of the familiar aquarium you've been accustomed to for years and years. Now, all of a sudden, you're somewhere new. What was once a level you played dozens and dozens of times in your life has now changed. Not in a drastic way, to where the level never felt familiar to begin with, but in a more subtle way. As you continue swimming down this new hallway, you're met with, well, not a whole lot. Just a gaping chasm where a level should be, but it almost looks unfinished. Around you are familiar textures you've seen while exploring Peach's castle in the past, like these metal wall textures found in the TTM slide, or this checkerboard flooring found all throughout the castle. Still swimming forward, and now this tunnel feels too long. How long can this tunnel go on for? What is at the end of this tunnel? Is there an end to this tunnel? After what feels like half a lifetime swimming around trying to find all 8 red coins, you finally reach the end, grab the last red coin, and are brought back to a feeling of familiarity. Grabbing the Power Star, signifying the end of a journey. I can still vividly remember the feelings I experienced when I first played this course. It's something that's really hard to put into words, but if I had to describe it, it was like entering an old childhood home after decades of not living there, only to find it's been completely vacated for years. You walk inside and find a shell of what was once somewhere you spent half a lifetime. The structure still stands. It's still the same house you grew up in, but now it's empty, devoid of life. It feels different and unfamiliar. You get turned around in a place you could once walk totally blindfolded. And that is an incredibly rare thing for a video game to pull off so elegantly. And it is done with class not only here, but throughout almost every level in the game. Another level I wanted to talk about is arguably the most well-known thing to come out of this game, and that is Dry Town. Oh man, what an experience it was to first play this level. To start, you're placed in another long tunnel that seemingly just ends at a distance. After several long jumps and dives through the tunnel, the rest of the level finally starts to render, and you're met with the most dreamlike level ever conceived in a Mario game. An enormous castle is shrouded in a thick brown fog, concealing almost everything about it except its intimidating silhouette. Venturing on into the town, and man, I know I've been here before. This level incorporates elements from Wet Dry World's downtown section, as well as the towers from Mario Wings to the Sky. And while the feeling of familiarity is certainly strong here, this level's design is totally original. How something that feels so close to the source material, while at the same time being completely original in its design, is truly what this game excels at. The second and third categories kinda go hand in hand, that being the music and atmosphere, so I'll discuss them in tandem. First off, the music. Oh my god, the music. There are over 150 songs spread throughout this game, and every single one of them is amazing. Every song perfectly mixes with the atmosphere this game conveys. Every song here utilizes the Super Mario 64 sound front, meaning all the same MIDI instruments and sounds are used to create the music as in the original game. But almost every song here feels really off-putting. For example, this lobby theme. It's similar to the original, right? But it's just slightly dissimilar. It's taken up a half step, which totally changes the key of the original song. It uses the same instruments, the same melody, the same everything. All they did was change the key signature of the song, and coupled with the dreamy vibes this lobby gives off, It's the perfect storm to create a sense of eeriness. Or how about this? You're just playing the game like normal, exploring your little heart out, when all of a sudden you see a random pipe. You go down said pipe, and this is what you're greeted with. Talk about an overwhelming sense of dread. A pitch black room with ominous music in the background. Dead ahead are a few haphazardly placed platforms, and a single yellow switch. Yellow switches were never part of the original game, so what new ability does this switch possibly grant? No, crushed again. I'm just a stepping stone after all. Hitting this switch randomly chooses a bit of dialogue from the base game and corrupts all the textures in the room. With nothing left to do here, you fast travel out and are now noticeably missing your hat. You can pick up your hat in a select few levels, but good luck finding it. One more example. You come across a lone pipe in a dark, cold-looking basement with a portrait of Jolly Roger Bay colored red in the background. Paired with the ominous music lurking in the background gives you a sense of uneasiness as you hop into the pipe. You jump out and are met with more metallic-looking walls and floors. The first thing you'll probably notice as you hop out of the pipe is the lack of any music. The only sounds you'll hear as you run through this maze are the pitter-patter of Mario's feet. As you turn yet another corner in this maze, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and as you approach it, you realize you're stumbling upon yet another level. As you cross the threshold of the end of the maze, a familiar, calming tune begins playing, and you're filled with a sense of happiness, relief, inner peace. So, all this talk about B3313 itself. But how did this creepypasta-esque, semi-jokey ROM hack have such a profound effect on me? Well, there's a couple reasons. You know that scene in Ratatouille where the food critic gets that giant wave of nostalgia from when he was a kid? Yeah, you know the clip. That perfectly describes the way I felt when I first played this. I was instantly taken back to the first time I played the original Super Mario 64 a decade and a half ago, sitting on an uncomfortable wooden chair in front of a CRT television without hardly a care in the world, just enjoying life. It's a feeling that will forever go unmatched, and is unfortunately something I'll never truly experience again. But man, did this game bring back those feelings. So I've written and rewritten this part of the script like 5 times now, and I'm having a really hard time putting this into words, so please bear with me. When it comes to having severe depression, your entire life is turned upside down. All of a sudden, people and places once familiar to you are now mundane and meaningless. Every single aspect of your life that was once bright and brimming with color now are black and white voids that mean absolutely nothing anymore. The friends, the hobbies, the food that you eat, everyday events that once brought you just a little bit of happiness now no longer seem to matter. Your life is now metaphorically a giant maze of something that was once familiarity, peace, home, now turned into something sinister. Thoughts of why am I still alive, or is today the day I do it, are constantly rattling around in your brain, permanently smothering out any and all rational thoughts. Your own mind telling you to self-destruct because it thinks it's not worth a damn thing has got to be one of the most frightening feelings a person can experience. B3313 perfectly conveys those feelings of depression and hopelessness in ways words cannot describe. All around you are places and people, or in this case enemies and NPCs, that were once familiar and lively, now turned into hollow shells of what once were. Toads randomly missing faces, dead eels floating in the sky, demonic floating entities of yourself that chase you in dark, foreboding forests. Or how about the levels themselves? Constant long black voids, cold, damp environments, places that were once somewhere you go to feel peaceful and happy, now enveloped with a black fog that permanently engulfs once familiar surroundings. The sentiment of loneliness. The game randomly crying out words of pain, "It hurts," and "Get me out," the same lines your brain feeds you when you want nothing more than to just die. I know all of this is not what the game intends the player to take away from playing this game. It's meant to just have a good scare factor that would make for some nice clicks on YouTube, and to just be fun in general. But finding unintended and subliminal messages hidden away in everyday life is something I love doing. There's a beauty to it. And this game, B3313, is the epitome of beautiful. Now, am I saying this game magically cured me of all my mental turmoil? Of course not. And it would be foolish of me to say otherwise. But this game did do something for me that is arguably just as important. It was the first step in the healing process. Before I started playing this game, I wanted absolutely nothing to do with life anymore. Nothing made me happy, nothing appealed to me, but when I found this game, there was a reason to get out of bed in the morning now. Every time I'd boot up my computer, I'd feel excited to see what sort of mysteries I can find, what new music awaits me, when the next spooky thing will happen. B3313 finally gave me the spark that would give way to my recovery. Shortly after, I stopped drinking, sought counseling, began medication, and got the proper diagnoses. I was finally able to put a name as to why, my entire life, I've been the oddball, why I always excluded myself from everyday activities. I was beyond relieved to finally learn that I had autism. Now, of course, just because I now know what I have doesn't mean I can just treat it like the common cold and get rid of it. But having finally put a name to this odd feeling I've always carried around with me was one of the biggest waves of relief I had ever felt. Knowing that I wasn't some kind of reject not meant to roam this earth, knowing there were other people like me that felt the exact same way their entire lives. Now that was magic. And if it weren't for B3313, I don't know if I'd be here today. Thank you for watching. I'll be returning to regular content next time. This was a video I've had in mind for years at this point, and I'm at a point in my life where I felt it was necessary to make this video, as it signifies a chapter in my life that has long passed on, and while it's one I'd never, ever want to experience again, it is the one I learned the most in. Thank you, Chris, and your wonderful team. Just know, even though most likely unintentional, you have deeply touched at least one person out there, and I will forever be grateful for that. I'll see everyone next time.